What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Dreams to Reality podcast. And today we are in London with Bukky Yusuf. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Cam. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be interviewed today.
What do you think to the setup?
I'm loving it. I just love the informal setup to it. But this, you guys are the real deals. It's great.
Informal?
In terms of, where we are.
Excuse me, we're extremely professional.
I think I put my foot in it already.
No,
we've started.
So let's take it back. 2020, right? What a crazy year.
It has been. It's like all the different emotions. So obviously despair, confusion. I'm not sure what's going on from day to day. But there have been some really positive moments as well, actually, in terms of, what's happened at school. Even though we're on site. And the way I think people have actually just got together. So friends, Definitely. Communities and social media, etc. So it's the good and bad.
Right, let's start from the beginning. When was the Leadership Matters conference where we first met?
Oh, goodness.
Was that end of Jan?
That was end of January 2020, yes, in Birmingham.
So that was end of Jan. That's where we first connected, which was amazing. And I guess a couple months after, lockdown happened. What was your big 2020 goals for this year, which went out the window? We all had
goodness. I think it was in terms of, I've forgotten half of them now. I wanted to get into doing things in terms of more presentations and things like that. I think going around the country. So there were particular special schools I wanted to visit across the UK, and also some sixth form colleges to look at how they'd actually use EdTech. Okay. So I had to, that was just minor, but basically connecting with more educators in real life across the UK and actually taking up some of the opportunities that come my way. But the reason I'm having to think long and hard is the fact that as soon as lockdown started, everything just went out the window. What
was the biggest challenge you faced at the start of lockdown? Just in school. So for people who don't know, where are we right now?
Okay, so right now we are in the art room at my school. My school is Edith K. Independent School. Okay. Independent because of the fact that we have a school proprietor, so it's not necessarily by the local authority. But it's a special school and also alternative provision for children who are aged, or young people who are aged 14 to 19. Okay. So we mostly have students who've been out of school for, several months at least, for a wide variety of reasons. And all of our students have got EHCPs, so educational health care plans, which basically means they've got complex learning needs that we try and facilitate.
So have you always worked in special schools?
No. I've only been in this particular school for coming up to, say, about 18 months.
And that's all the experience you've had?
This is the only experience I've had has been here.
That's good to know. So as we get into the interview, so where did you work before? Was you in just a...
Right. So right before here, I was actually in a combined middle and senior leadership role. And what that basically meant is I was a head of science in a fairly large academy, part of an academy chain, but also part of the senior leadership team as well.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So why did you take the jump? Because there's 20 students here. It's a bit different to what you're used to.
Completely different.
When you could continue to climb up the chain to where you was. Why did you take the leap? For me, I guess why I would want to take the leap is different experience. It opens, I don't know.
I took the leap for a number of personal and professional reasons. Okay. I was at a stage where I wanted to leave my previous school. Okay. For a wide variety of reasons. And I was fortunate enough that my head teacher actually released me from the contract. We agreed a date in which I could actually leave, which was an unusual time of year, like spring half term. And I was just talking to my coach about the fact that, look, this is where I am, this is what I want right now. And I was actually looking for part-time roles just to give myself some space and just to get some things behind the scenes in personal life in place. And this opportunity just came up, literally out of the blue. So when I came for interview, I thought it was going to be just like a couple of days a week, maybe just teaching science.
Yeah.
But when I got taken around and I spoke to the head teacher, I found actually this is I love the feel. You know, like we spoke about vibe as well. Great vibe, really good feel. And I knew I could actually contribute. But I also really quickly learned that I could learn more about supporting children with special educational needs in a holistic way, not just like, just like 9 to 5 day to job.
What does holistic mean? What do you mean by
holistic
that?
In terms of understanding the students. Okay, so prior to this, in the mainstream, this is not pointing fingers at any particular school. It might just be down to me. Yeah. You have the students, you've got 30 kids in the class, no doubt a number of them will actually have special educational needs, and you try and do the best that you can in that particular context. But then, you've got, say, up to, say, like 8 different classes. You just do the best you can. And I made a deliberate choice to work in a special school so that I could learn how to be a better teacher for students of SEND.
And connect as well.
Connect, understand, see them as a person, understand what really motivates and drives them, understand about what really helps them to learn so that I'm a better teacher. So, and that's what I mean about holistic, because it meant that I had to look at my practices. I always do that anyway. But this was really layering back and thinking, okay,
an opportunity,
what really makes them work? So it's a really different experience.
Where do you create that awareness that, okay, I want to develop, I want to improve, and this will help me become not only a better teacher, but also a better person, right? Because it's going to. It's going to open your mind to a wide range of different things you probably wasn't even aware of before.
Absolutely.
And some people will not be willing to put themselves in that situation to have those growing pains. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good question and very good point as well, Cam.
Someone say I'm a professional.
That comment I made about informal, it will haunt me. I think I've always been the type of teacher who I'm interested in my students. I want to know what helps them to learn.
How long have you been teaching for?
I've been teaching for 23 years.
23 years?
Yes.
23 years?
23 years.
Okay, that's good.
I've always had that, and that's driven me, and that's what makes me feel, you can see energized. I love it. When this opportunity came, I had to admit, I was a little bit scared because I just thought, what I know about really effectively teaching students who've got complex learning needs, I could write on the back of the postage stamp. Yeah. I'm honest, but I think as a teacher, I'm also a learner as well. Yeah. So what I found is that with my most challenging classes, even with mainstream, as much as I may have changed my teaching and techniques, they've also taught me as well. So I'm learning from them. I'm, learning a variety of ways, which helps more students in the end. So I took, I suppose, a leap of faith, saw it as an opportunity and just thought, only good can come of this. Yeah. You've got mainstream schools who've got students who are struggling. If I can take even a fraction of what I'm learning here back to them, it's going to make a bigger difference. Yeah, so that's basically that.
I want to quickly go back just a little bit further.
Okay.
Where are you from? Are you from London?
Yep, born and bred. In fact, I was born in Brent, believe it or not.
Is that where we are?
Yeah, we're in London, yeah.
London, we just drove an hour through London. We're like, why does it take so long to drive through London?
Here, yeah.
What was your experience for yourself growing up in school and education yourself? Was it a good experience?
It was positive. My being the eldest, my parents did have very high expectations of me. Okay. And I think that's part of the reason why I will try and drive myself to do the best I possibly can, but also worry as well that I may not be able to, make the cut. So it's that dual thing. But I did enjoy school, particularly sciences, English and art. They were my favourites. Okay. I really love those particular subjects. And I had some very quirky, memorable teachers that made the school experience really good. Did A-levels. That's amazing. Flopped my A-levels. Didn't do as well as because I spent 2 years really enjoying college rather than studying. I shouldn't say that. But that was the truth.
Dave, cut it.
But that was the truth.
So you did your A-levels at college?
I did my A-levels at, it was like a sixth form centre. It was like newly established. But I didn't do as well as I should have done. And so I decided to do retakes at a college to get better grades. And also to show, the true potential, as I said. But that was a really interesting learning point for me, though, because...
How did your parents take that?
God. I can still remember it. Yeah, that... Not good at all.
Going home with a piece of paper?
I was brick in it, Cam. Yeah, I was really, 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 really worried. You know, anyone who's got Nigerian parents will understand, you know, unless you're actually bringing those grades, don't even bother. But it was interesting because for me, it showed me, it made me understand how some of my students feel, because up until then, you know, passed my qualifications with ease because I could do it. But I had to work. And it also made me realize that, you know, for some of my students who have the ability but don't do it, I'm saying to them, look, I've been in a position where I've had the potential and opportunity, but I didn't do the work. And it's hard. It's hard trying to face yourself. It's hard trying to face your parents and family to say, these grades that I've got are not a true reflection of me. I can do better. Because sometimes you don't get the chance to do that.
Okay. But you're doing well for yourself now, miss.
Oh, goodness. I say
that helps, you know, because for me, I didn't do well in school, but yes, I turned my education around. I went to university. Obviously, I talk about a lot being dyslexic and stuff as well, so I overcome them. And I hear, so you say about you didn't do well in school and you're doing just fine now. So, and it's like, but you're not getting the point. It'd been so much easier, and I would have had less obstacles and challenges if I just focused when I had the opportunity. Yeah. Would you say that was similar for yourself? Do you ever hear that?
It is similar. I don't get people that actually say to me, well, you've done, you know, I think for the students I teach, it makes them sit up, because sometimes they think, oh, well, you had to do retakes. What's that like? And I know there are still some people, you know, there are still some educators who would probably hear, what, she did retakes? Oh my goodness, and look down at me. I'm over that. I think for me, it was a really good wake-up call of not wasting opportunities and not messing around just because. But what's great is the fact that it gives me, you know, when I talk to my students, you know, about life lessons, they listen to those. Those are the, you know, the times in which I didn't do well. Yeah. They're the ones that, you know, they're those anecdotes and stories that they seem to resonate with. And I say, there's always an opportunity. However, you may find, I said, just for me, I had opportunities. You may not have those. So try and make it easy to do the best that you possibly can. But if things don't work out, there's always a way. But, you know, and just talk about advice about, you know, getting people in your life that can support you and all these particular types of things as well. So I'm an optimist. And I always try and look for, you know, like the good in a situation. What can you take out from it and what can you learn? And I always look, you know, moving forward in that regard.
Okay, so let's touch on the stories you talked about. And let's also touch on talking about educators may say, oh, shouldn't do well in sixth form, right? Let's take the basics into consideration, is that you're a human, right?
Yes.
So even when you came into this new position with not much experience within this area, the bottom line is, you got a vibe. Remember what we spoke about? Mm-hmm. You know how to talk to people.
Yes.
And you also got enough kind of, what's the word? It's not humility. Is that the word? Is that the word I'm thinking?
I don't know. It depends.
Just to kind of be open to the experience and to learn and to grow. So the bottom line is, even if you came in with not much experience, you're still going to connect. They're still going to appreciate you. Yes. And they're still going to respect you because you're human. Mm-hmm. You're not somebody you're not supposed to be. You're open, you're honest, and you're real. And it doesn't matter what your background is, whether you failed sixth form, it doesn't matter, because they can see real and they can see through the rubbish straight away.
Absolutely, that's so true. What gave me confidence, Cam, is the fact that I've got X number of years of teaching experience of teaching science, and I know I can do.
You know your subject.
I know my subject. So irrespective of lesson observation, feedback, and things like that, I know my science. I know how to make students do well in their exams. I can help them pass if they work with me. So that confidence I brought. So having that as a foundation meant that I then had time to look at the other aspects about, okay, what else do I need to do in terms of making the learning accessible for my students?
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What advice would you give a teacher looking to transition into a new role they haven't done before, whether it's in their school, a completely different school, or a different area in education? What advice would you give somebody looking to transition?
Okay, so know yourself first and foremost.
Know yourself.
Sorry. Know yourself. What are you good at? What do you need to develop? Be really clear on that. If you can, get a coach to help with the development points, or a mentor. I always say about getting a coach and mentor.
Do you pay for the coach?
Both. I do pay, and I get some free coaching, and I also pay for it as well.
Why? Carry on.
So that's that. Talk to people who are actually doing the roles that you're thinking of actually considering about, okay, so what does it really entail? If you can go and visit the places, the organizations, go visit, so you can get a sense. Because I'm always talking about what resonates in your gut. Does it feel right or not? And if it's something that you feel I could make a difference, I think it's about not just doing a job. Can you make a difference? Yeah? Then go for the opportunities and learn. Be open to learning. Yeah? Be open to learning whatever you need to learn in order to make that particular difference. So that's what I would say generally.
What if it doesn't feel right in the gut, but the paycheck does? And the opportunity does.
Been there, done that.
Right, because we were me and Dave talk a lot, don't we, in the car? But we're in the car for 5 hours today already, right? But we talked about when influencers on Instagram post things which is not good for fitness, right? They say they use this product or whatever, but they get paid 10 grand. I said nobody could pay me 10 grand to post anything like that because it's against my values. I just couldn't do it, right? So what about that one job that doesn't feel right in the gut? You don't really like the head teacher, or you don't like the staff, or you don't even like the school, but the paycheck is good, and where it may lead could be good. Fantastic question again, Cam.
It's a very good question. If it doesn't feel right, you're not going to enjoy it. Even if it leads on to something, like, even if it's part of a stepping stone onto what you want to go on to. As you said, we're human beings, you should enjoy what you're doing. It should be something. If you're spending X number of hours away from home and your loved ones and things like that, doing something you really don't like, it doesn't make sense to me. I put my hand up earlier to say that I did that. So it wasn't, I liked the school or what I thought of it. I liked the department I was going to be working in or what I thought of it. I loved the kids and that stayed. And, I had an opinion for the head teacher and the leadership team, or what I thought I knew of it. And in time, I realised what I thought and the reality were two totally different things. It did pay well, but that was, I suppose, a by the by. If I were to do that again, I would say, Bukky, once you realise, walk sooner. And it goes against the principle I've always had as a teacher, in the fact that no matter what, you stick it out, you find a way, particularly if you've got kids. I love what I do because of the students. I know I make, you can make a difference. They can cut through the BS and things like that. But for me to leave, and that's what I did, as I said, with my previous role before I came here, I walked away from the role. That was gut-wrenching. Not because of the fact that I was walking away without a job to go to, but because I was leaving those students behind. And it took me a long time to actually say to the students, I am leaving. I avoided it like the plague. And it got to a point where I couldn't actually not say it. I had to. And yeah.
Do you regret that decision?
No. I don't regret the decision because I had to take care of myself.
There you go.
I was not in an environment that was benefiting my needs. It wasn't helping me to be me. I couldn't be myself. So I had to take care of myself, and it was the right thing to do. I felt gutted. I still feel gutted that I left those students behind. That said, it was still the right thing to do.
Because there's that saying, does leaders eat first or does leaders eat last? And really, leaders have to eat first in many ways, because if you don't look after yourself, your own mental health, then it's going to have an effect, isn't it? Whether we can see it straight away or whether it's long term, it's going to have an impact,
Yeah.
And you may not be having the opportunities you have now, or you might not be thinking the way you think if you didn't walk away. So you have to do what's right for you, and sometimes you may seem selfish, but it's not, because I know it's hard walking away. Like even this year with the whole kind of coronavirus stuff going on, the pupil premium programs I run within schools, obviously that meant I didn't get to the end of most of them, and we didn't see it to the end, which I promised we was going to get to the end, and we was going to have a little celebration, and they've all worked so hard, and we didn't get to the end, and that hurt. But then I thought, what can you do?
Exactly. In that regard, what can you do? But again, it's a learning point for me, because before I always used to think, to staff, like teachers, if you come into role, and even if it's really difficult, you stick it out, because, the priority of the students and things like that, making sure that you do right by them. And now I know better. Sometimes you're not in a position to stick it out. You've got to do what's right for you.
Wow, that's strong. So if somebody not just in education, let's make it a bit bigger, even in a job you didn't like, don't take into consideration the economy and stuff right now. Okay, there's many different factors what is a part of this, right? But if somebody was doing something they wasn't enjoying, or they didn't like it, or they didn't love it, even if they got paid for it, what advice would you give to them? Because it's a tricky one, right? Because obviously, true. If you've got kids, if you've got a mortgage, you've got different things. It's easy for us to just sit back and say, yeah, leave your job, go and do something. Even though that does take a lot of courage. But then there's been other times when it actually happened, maybe a bit too close to talk about it, but it actually happened with the whole Black Lives Matter incident. I even sent it to one of our close connections just to get their opinion on it. And I've got a very strong stand on the Black Lives Matter, especially with the community I was raised in. Majority of my friends are black. I will never fully understand being a white person, but I've seen it. And especially, obviously, my family are white, and I've still heard it. Does that make sense? So I've seen both sides, and I know that it exists. And I was very vocal, and I still am. And basically, a head teacher in an inner city school said they went on my Instagram, and basically they didn't like my stand. And what they said is, in my school, we don't see race, we don't see religion. What we see is their character. What do you have to say about it? I've got the emails, I'll show you after, right? They said, what do you have to say about it? I said, I will not apologize for my opinion on this matter, because not only is there research to back all my claims up, I have personally seen it with my own eyes. And it's not like I was actively going at anyone, but I'm not going to apologize just for the sake of money and whatever. And funny enough, we didn't work together. And I'm absolutely so happy with myself that I was close. I wasn't close, but I was like, should I not be so... It's not like I'm actively going out there and being opinionated, but I had to talk about it, especially as I got a lot of young people who follow me, and it was an important factor for me to talk about it, especially because I feel like my perspective is very unique. So that's why I talked about it. And do you know what? I'm glad it wasn't a school I wanted to work with anyway.
It's true, because it's when you're speaking your truth, whatever your truth is, about being authentic. We can be authentic in different ways, and you stood by your line. You stood your ground in that regard, and it didn't work out. And sometimes I just think there's a good behind it, even though it's oh my goodness, it's like.
What do you think about when someone says, "Oh, I don't see race or religion"? Because you was like,
I get it. Okay, so there's two. I have so many discussions on that. So there's two questions I need to answer. Okay, so first of all, advice, and then to give a person, and then my response about don't see race and religion. If someone is working in a job that they don't like, but because they've got responsibilities, they cannot walk away from that. What I would say is look at the aspects within the role that you really, enjoy. Is there any way of actually building upon that? If not, can you do things not necessarily as a side hustle, but can you do things externally that you tapped into the skills and things that you like and enjoy?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe have discussions and, tap into your networks externally as well, so that if the opportunity does come, you at least feel prepared to take that. Because I know it's easier said than done. I've walked away without having a job beforehand.
Yeah.
And it was scary. I've got some responsibility. I don't have kids and things like that, but I had some responsibilities. So I had to think long and hard about how do I make it work. So that's that. With regards to your second question about where people say they don't see race and colour and things like I understand. I'll be controversial in saying, as a black woman, I understand that sentiment. I get it. Yeah. I get it. However, the however is, if you're saying you don't see colour, does it mean that you don't see the individual as a person? Or what? What exactly do you mean by that? So what I would say, if I hear that question that statement being posed, is asking the particular person, so what does that mean to you? What are you trying to say by saying that? Because if you're trying to dismiss a person by not seeing them as an individual of person of, particularly ethnicity or background, that is an issue. If what you're trying to say is, I see that you may be black, Asian, whatever it is, but I look beyond that, then there may be some room for discussion and things like that. So I think,
say that again. So,
okay, yeah. So
I think this is very important.
This is
because people don't want to say, oh, I see this and I see that. They want to, be neutral and be, it's all about the person's character. But it's fascinating, and I want to hear your opinion on it. And I just think it's interesting.
But the thing I would say is that, again, there are so many. Our backgrounds, as you said, Cam, influenced how we see the world and our experiences and what we see. So someone said, I want to look at a person's character, but based upon what? In reference to what? So, for example, let me give an example. Nigerian parentage, Nigerians typically, or, like in my families and things like that, are very loud and very boisterous and maybe opinionated. Now, they may be characteristics that may go against, say, like a typical British person. Okay. Why are you so loud? You should be more, demure and all these particular things. So I think that it's a noble attitude to have. However, I think you can still run into problems with it. Do you see what I'm saying? Because in terms of characteristics, let's be, you could have good characteristics or maybe not so good characteristics or desirable characteristics and less desirable characteristics. What are the desirable characteristics? What do you deem to be, what would you deem to be good characteristics or desirable characteristics or what have you, based upon what? Yeah. And so if you come across, there will be people and cultures that we come across where the characteristics, we might think, oh my God, no, I don't, less than ideal. But that's more upon you, not understanding the context in which they're actually in. Okay. So I just think that the sentiment... So if you turn around and say,
I don't see...
Yeah, the sentiment I understand, but I think it can be complex because it's almost as though it can be seen that you're negating a person in terms of their colour or race or experiences, ethnicity, etc. What you should be saying is what should be done. I think with the whole.
This is what I was going to ask you. What should be done?
What should be done is
what could people do more of?
Listen. Well, one. Listen. Two. Shut up.
Well,
it's not about no. It's not. It's not about. It's not about your. It's not about the person's experience. It's about the other person. If someone is saying that this is what they experience in their life. It's not for you to turn around and say, well, I don't experience that. Well, as a person of this particular background, are you trying to say it's me? No, we're not trying to listen to the person's experience and understand the context and then think, what can you do to support? What can you do? And that's it. It's in my mind, it's quite simple. And maybe it's too simplistic, but I just think that too many times it's like a rebuttal of what's being said. Oh. It's dismissal of what's being said. It's, negating someone's experience. I will never forget, there was something I saw, I think it was either last summer or a couple of summers ago, on one particular talk show's episode in which you had a black Scottish model talking about the racial experiences that she faced and experienced. And part of the panel discussion were these two white ladies. I didn't know any of them actually, but so it came on my Twitter feed. What made me horrified was the fact that this black lady was actually talking about what she experienced, and it was completely dismissed by these ladies who were trying to say, you can't, that's not racist. I thought, how dare you? How can you say it? You've not been in her shoes to experience what she has done. But secondly, you're not even listening to her. You're dismissing it. And I think that's
the worst.
But that happens too often in a variety of different ways. The gaslighting is real. It is, yeah.
And it's one topic which I am absolutely fascinated with. And I can literally talk about it all day. And even like a few of my closest friends, literally. So I was like the only kind of white kid in my whole friend group. But also obviously going to uni and doing different things and being around my family. And even... This, obviously recently with the statue being dragged down in Bristol, where we live, and I just like to sit back and also watch and see how, and just the level of ignorance, which is crazy. And it's just, I'm always asking myself, what can I do? What should I do? And even one of my best friends, he's mixed race and he lives in Chicago, but from England. He got a scholarship originally over to Chicago to play American football and also for education purposes. He's got a good job in the middle of Chicago now, manager, like, probably on about 100K a year. But and his girlfriend is American. She's black, and I remember he was one of those such a positive person, right? And I nearly didn't reach out to him because he's always positive. Know those strong friends you just got?
Yeah.
And I remember I just thought something's telling me. So I reached out and said, Samir, how are you, my friend? You good? And he said, not really, bro. Not in a very good place. And at that point, I was like, I kind of looked at my WhatsApp and I was like, what? Like, and obviously I called him instantly. And he's like the only black person within his office. And obviously it's a real conversation. And obviously in the middle of Chicago, they're rioting at this point. It was right in the middle of everything was happening a couple months ago. And he was like, I don't even know if I want children in America. I don't know if I want. And it's a deep conversation.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just about listening and understanding and just trying to figure it out. And yeah, I can educate people in my family and I can talk about it. But it's just all about listening. Even though of my perspective, I still don't fully know. But I've been to the shop with my other best friend John, who's 6 foot black guy with tattoos, whatever. And we're close to 30 years old, and we're still getting followed around by security guards. There's been times when I was a teenager, 16, and we would all out on my bikes, and my friends would get chucked into the police car, and I would get left, and I was the only white person. I was the only white person who didn't get searched, even though we was a part of the same group. Does that make sense? So
completely, and that's why I think that you have to listen with the intent to understand, not just to argue back, and then think, okay, what can I do to help? And I think it's as simple as that, and there are a variety of different ways. And obviously it all, the spectrum of how you can actually help depends on where you are on the zone of comfort and what you feel most comfortable in actually doing.
Thinking about it right now, right? We've got the cameras on and we're talking about it now. It would have been so easy. I didn't even plan to talk about this. It would have been so easy not to talk about it, right? But I don't know what was mentioned, but it was, let's talk about it, right? And it can be uncomfortable. People will be like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that. But I think it's necessary because people don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's true. People don't want to say the wrong thing. And even, I'll be honest now and say, in my mind, I was thinking there are going to be some people who are going to take exception to what I've said, or, you didn't say in a particular way. I don't agree with that, and I'm comfortable with that. But I think rather than split hairs and think about semantics, it's about, okay, so what do we agree on, and what can we do to make a change? That's the thing. I'm not by any means saying it's an easy endeavor. But I remember having a discussion, way back from all the incidents that actually took place in May 2020 about what it means to be...
Was it?
Yeah, end of May, yeah. And what it means to be an ally. If you're going to be supportive, you've got to be empathetic, which means that you're understanding listening to and understanding the other person's context. But then if you want to make a change, it's a lifelong endeavor in some cases. It's not a jumping on bandwagon with a particular slogan or what have you.
It's not a moment. It's a movement.
It's not a moment at all. It's and it's part of what you then actively decide to do in whichever shape or form you feel most comfortable with. Because obviously some people are more vocal and more active, and others, they provide support in different ways. But for me, I'm not going to look down or judge someone saying, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Yeah. You should be doing something that is making a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
So...
Let me ask you a question, and we'll quickly move on because I've got loads of other different questions as well. Yeah. But as a black woman in education, have you faced any challenges or obvious obstacles you've had to overcome or you're continuing to face? Is that a...
That's a question and a half. Nothing direct. And do you mean that from staff, students?
I don't. Just in general.
In general,
what's your experience?
In general, I would say it's difficult. The difficulties sometimes. The difficulties internal or external are some of the difficulties. Things I've experienced. Are they really what how they are? And it seems like a bit of a cop-out question. Answer, but I know, for example, I know there have been experiences in which I've done, I've had lesson observations in which you notice that people of colour get a particular grade. They can never get outstanding, for example. It's very rare to get outstanding. And you think, well, why is that? And, I may have been part of that. You think, well, why is that? How is it that all these people that seem to be united on one particular, that seem to be linked together in one particular aspect are all not outstanding, but other people are. So sometimes you have those particular experiences, but nothing explicit. Nothing explicit. I've had from students. This is in the past. Some comments that have been made, in relation to like my headscarf, or maybe like one or two about the religion and stuff like that. But I'm always able to respond back, or when I've not been able to because it wasn't appropriate, because it's something that was, a significant thing, pass it on and let the school deal with it. Well, some schools, and in those few instances, I think I would say it was dealt with appropriately on one occasion, and the others, it's just like trying to let it slide. Yeah.
Let's talk about... That's amazing. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. I think that was very much needed. Even for myself, it's just great to have somebody I respect and listen to their perspective on that situation, because it is, as you said, it's not a moment thing. It's a lifetime thing, and it's something I'm actually passionate about. And sometimes I question myself: should I be doing? It's a difficult one, isn't it? But I want to go back to coaching. I nearly stopped you earlier. And you said you pay for a coach, and then you've also got another coach / kind of mentor as well. Why is it important to get coached?
One of my favourite questions, one of my favourite things, because I'm also a qualified coach as well. I think it's really important. Oh, right. Okay. Put that in there. I think it's...
Come on, crowd clap.
One thing I found when I've done consultancy in two different roles.
How do you qualify as a coach, by the way? If people are looking to get into coaching, what did you do?
Oh, right. So I did an ILM. I can't remember what it stands for.
ILM, yeah, I know.
Yeah, but level 5 in coaching. Was it coaching and mentoring? Can't remember a specific thing. So I did that.
I'm looking to do
the
same.
For about,
Was
it's really good. I really enjoyed it. Loved it. Yeah,
I've got the level 3 because I did it at uni, but now I'm looking to either do the 5 or the 7, but I don't know what the...
So I think the 7 is more executive coaching, and I never understood about what that actually meant because I didn't explore it enough. But actually, I looked into it, but it just didn't appeal, and I didn't explore it enough at the time. I just thought, okay, I'm happy with what I've got. I'll just continue with that. But so when I first did consultancy, and this was, oh goodness, how many years ago? We're talking about maybe 15 years ago. It's quite a while back. I used to visit, like different people, like heads of department, key stage 3 science coordinators, etc. And what struck me is the fact that they didn't have a safe space to talk about how they really felt with the role that they're actually doing in a professional manner, but then also look at having discussions in which they could actually move what they were trying to do forward. And that struck me. And I'm just thinking, God, like you've got everyone seems to be working in isolation. So when the opportunity for coaching came, and I offered that to more schools, it was very well received.
So do you offer that as a service now?
I offered that in two ways. So I'm part of a number of grassroots organisations. One of those is Women Ed. And Women Ed basically looks at primarily...
Was you a part founder in that?
No. I've been involved from the very beginning.
Yeah, I thought you have.
Yeah, I've been involved from the very, very beginning, but no. So that I was not. I was supposed. As you could describe me as one of those been recruited, I guess, that came on board. So at the time, it was looking at ways of getting more women into leadership positions, because there was like the idea about the glass ceiling or concrete ceiling, depending on your perspectives and things like that. But now it's actually just looking at support. Yeah,
I've never heard of concrete ceiling before.
Samina Chowdhury, who was one of the founders of Women Ed but recently stepped down, said that for women to go into leadership, there is a glass ceiling. But if you are a woman who is Black, Asian or minority ethnic, that glass ceiling is like a concrete ceiling, because it's even harder to get through. So I thought that was a really interesting analogy. So I do, so through Women Ed and the fact that, supporting women basically in, doing the roles that they want to do in the ways in which they do, whatever. I volunteered to offer coaching for free through the Women Ed. But I also, because I work part-time in school, I do
So you're freelance. Part-time in school and then you're freelance?
Yeah, okay. So I work 2 days a week in school, doing a senior leadership role as well as leading science. And then the other time I just do freelance aspects, which can be looking at supporting developing science, edtech aspects or coaching. So with regards to the coaching, as I say, do that. But I just think that it's really important. I see more and more of a need for people to have a safe, confidential space just to talk about how they are within their role and actually explore ways in which they can actually move, initiatives, projects, etc. forward.
That's amazing. I had a question. In your 2 days, this is what I was going to ask you actually as you was talking. Being who you are, you have a very well-known name within education. Mm-hmm. Does that put some schools off? Because you're no, does that make sense? Because you're well respected and you're well respected, you know your stuff. And some schools may be like, oh, I don't want to get criticised or don't want to be looked or spoken about, whatever. Because surely it must, not just for you, I'm on about people who do similar stuff or people who built a name on Twitter and things like that. Is it,
can it be a barrier, you
say?
Yeah,
do you reckon it is?
No one has ever expressed it. So if I'm actually offering support, it's based upon what I can do. And so that has not been an issue as far as I know, and no one's ever expressed it. What has been an interesting experience, though, is I've worked in a school before where I suppose my social media profile was known, and it felt like, again, by gut instinct, it felt like a hindrance.
Okay.
And I never unpicked as to why that actually was. I didn't want to pick beneath the surface too much. So I think in some cases where, I just literally thought of it as we was talking. Even me, sometimes you think, because some people say, oh, Bukky, in social media, and I don't consider myself that at all. But I'm just thinking some people.
Do.
No, I don't. I genuinely don't. No, I don't. I don't. But there are some people who've been on social media, particularly at Twitter, for much longer than I have. You've got a wider repertoire of things they actually do. When you meet them, for example, I'll never forget the time I met Dr. Jill Berry for the first time. And I was just fangirling. I was like, oh my God. Jill! I just, I cringed at the memory of it. But do I look as a negative? No, you might feel inferior, but in terms of because of the imposter syndrome's rearing its head, you don't quite feel good enough, maybe, and you might be doing all of these different things, because a lot of people say, oh, but you do all these things, but you think, yeah, but when you compare it to this particular person, it doesn't see that much. So I think the imposter syndrome and the comparison aspect comes in, which is not healthy. So it's a slight steer from the conversation, but
why is comparing not healthy?
You don't know the context in which a person's living their life. You don't understand. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So I was made aware of something this week, which blew me away, because on the surface of it, this particular person is very successful, well regarded, a lovely, genuinely lovely person. And that's what you saw from a professional context. And there was no doubt about that, that everything they did was superb in that regard. But I found out what was actually going on behind the scenes, in terms of their private lives and things like that. And it was like, whoa. So so what we see is not everything. And that's why I talk about, learning, teaching from a holistic, or getting to know someone from a holistic viewpoint or perspective. And I love this aspect where someone was saying, I think on social media, one of these motivational quotes, don't compare your, beginning to someone else's middle. So, for example, they may have been working behind the scenes and crafting it in all these particular aspects. As I say, long and short is it, you don't know what goes on behind the scene.
And the thing with social media as well, it's a highlight reel, Most people don't share the downtimes and stuff like that. They only share small, You don't see me you'll see me post this later, but you won't see me post me on the toilet, will you? That makes sense. Well, you won't post me when I get home and my baby's been sick on me. I'm not going to post that, am I? So
the negatives of a down point,
Well, it's just, we have to understand, and it's all on perspective. And if we are comparing ourselves or something triggers us, then we need to ask ourselves, why did that trigger us?
And that's a really powerful question.
Where does that come from? And sometimes even this idea of procrastination and stuff, and we talk about, it's our phones, it's this and that. Actually, why don't we look at the root? What's the problem?
Absolutely.
Why are you getting distracted?
Yes.
Is it because you don't like what you're doing? Is it because of this or because of something else you've just gone through? It's not your phone just always pinging. Okay, that pinging ain't gonna help. But what is the root? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
It does, and then, but so by that question, Cam, what you're asking the person to do is to look at yourself, and that's hard, to point your fingers. What I love, that's when you're saying about the fact that people don't often share the moments when things have gone wrong, or I love that kind of stuff, and it's not because again it goes back to what I said about the fact that I retook my A-levels. That for me was, I suppose, a turning point and a blessing in disguise, because it made me understand and value when people were successful in spite of challenges. And I thought, well,
definitely.
you could, those learning points and things like that. So I love it when you have educators, or anyone basically, but generally educators, who they share the highs and the lows. I'll give it, like, for example, one time I was in a role where it was really hard. My first term of working in that role was really, really challenging for a wide variety of reasons. And so I like to process things by writing. So I wrote a particular blog about this, and I thought, right, well, I'm part of Women Ed, so I should be 10% braver. So don't just have it written and not posted. Share it as a blog. And I was really worried about doing that because it wasn't a highlight. I'd gone into a particular role. It was like, looked up there and what have you. It was a really good role and what have you. But I was struggling on all fronts. Work-life balance out the window, struggling to make, do the role properly. Every aspect was not going well. And so, but when I posted it, the responses I got were unbelievable. I think it's probably one of my most popular blogs to date.
Until this one comes out. Oh, yes.
But I think people need to see the reality, both good and bad. Life is not all bad, life is not all good, but the good and bad. And I think what I try and do with what I do is support others in a variety of ways, but also being real about how I managed to get to where I am and what I'm doing, because it put me off going into senior leadership. I remember having a conversation with one of my managers who said, you should be a senior leader. And I was like, no. Again, doubt, imposter syndrome. But because I naively thought we had to be really good at everything every single day in order to be able to do this particular role. And I found out, no, that's not really the case. When some other senior leaders shared, we have bad days and this is what we do to, mitigate against it, et cetera, et cetera.
So what does a 10% braver mean to you?
Right. Taking one step out of your comfort zone.
What is a comfort zone?
Comfort zone is automatically doing things without even having to think about it. Ease. It's just ease, no challenges, just the same old, same old.
So what's the benefit of stepping out?
You learn new things.
Why should you be 10% braver?
You learn new things about yourself. You learn new things about a situation. You develop different skills. You can see things from a different perspective. You are being challenged. There's what was it? One of the quotes I love is, "A comfort zone is a wonderful place, but nothing great ever grows there." And I think it is. It's That's when amazing. You step out. You're being alive. It's like, okay, so 2020. For all the different things that actually happened, one thing I think is a positive. It's a fact. It's forced everyone to step out of your comfort zone, because the norm, however the norm was, doesn't exist. So you have to do things differently. So it means you've got to learn and think and operate differently. And I think that's great. Because it's like not carving out a groove, but just finding new ways of doing things.
And one thing I admire about you is that you're doing it, you're living it.
I tried to.
No, but does that make sense? Even prior to this, when we had the conversation, I'm nervous, and I was like, it would be absolutely fine. You're like, send me the questions, and I don't have any questions. We just literally go with the flow, and I honestly do not plan anything. I check out your stuff beforehand, and where we go, but it has to be natural, because if that's what I want this to be, I want it to be unique, I want it to be special. And I said, it's just going to be, informal. informal, unprofessional podcast, right?
Informal did not, right, can I just say, informal does not mean unprofessional. Informal is good because it's comfortable. She says trying to, late comeback.
But does that make sense? And I just admire the work you do, because I just feel like it doesn't matter what you do, you're being yourself.
I try to be, yeah.
And even just from setting everything up, it's just it's just that pure openness and honesty, and that goes so much further than trying to be something we're not, or by trying to live a certain life we're not, or trying to pretend we know something what we don't really know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I even think that's the idea of a coach. People think coaches, you got to tell people to do, and it's like, actually being a good coach is about asking world-class questions.
Absolutely. Amen.
And this is what
Yeah.
this is what I talk about with the parents and stuff, and because I've done loads of parents webinars throughout the whole lockdown situation.
Okay.
So it's all on the questions.
Yes.
We're too busy asking yes or no questions. Actually, it needs to be more open. What's a world-class question? Okay, what do you think will happen if you don't do this work? What will happen when you go back to in September and you're falling behind and all your friends have done work even though they pretend they haven't done it?
Yeah.
How would that make you feel?
Exactly.
Does that make sense? It's all about those questions,
Yes.
and you want to give them you want them to think, oh, I created it.
It's the thinking. My favorite question is the Cartesian question, because you look at a situation from different perspectives. Like what would happen if it, I can't remember the different like what would happen if you did do this, what wouldn't happen if you didn't, all those, what wouldn't happen if you didn't do this particular thing. I'm not phrasing it properly, but with the Cartesian question, you've got 4 different questions and you look at a situation from a different way. Thinking, I think, is great. Thinking is good. Thinking hard is even better, I think. And one of the things I do in a coaching session
What's the difference?
Deep thinking means that you're not, like, for example, you just said like a yes or no question. Is this an easy interview?
It's easy.
Yeah. What has made this interview challenging is a different type of question. It's a deeper type of question. And one of the things I like to do, I like it when people make me think hard. And I love it during my coaching sessions, not intentionally, but to make people think. Because the whole point is the fact that you need to feel as though you've had a mental workout. And if it's just like an easy conversation, that's not really coaching. That's just a lovely conversation or discussion. So that's how I distinguish between the two.
Did the coaching course, the level 5, did it talk much about the questions?
Absolutely. So you've got...
So I'm genuinely thinking of doing it within the next 6 months or so.
I seriously, I will happily share, because you look at the questions, you look at people's, I suppose, not learning styles. You look at how people operate. So, for example, you may have people who are amiable. You may have people who are analytical. It's different types of people and how you approach them and things like that. What helps, bringing in, say, for example, with where I work in a special school, what helps is the fact that, as you say, if you take a human being or a person, we process the world in a particular way. And as a result of that, we respond in a particular way. And you can add that to coaching. So
it's perspective as well.
Yeah. So that I see a connectivity between all the different aspects of what I do, and that enables me to just try and do the best I possibly can.
Let's talk about quickly expectations. You talked about, obviously, your parents, Nigerian parents, you're the firstborn. How important is expectations, not just for our students, but also for ourselves? Is it important or is it not? I don't know.
Oh goodness!
Great question again, Cameron.
It is. That's a deep question.
Your opinion, just break it down, simplify it if you have to.
Yeah, no,
because there's a lot of
the question
research.
I would ask is, what do you mean by expectations?
Oh, that's a deep question. I'm interviewing you.
No, I'm just trying to understand what you meant by that.
I guess the expectations for ourselves different to expectations we have for the teenagers or the kids we teach, right? Are they?
Should they be? I don't know.
Because I would say, let me just talk about my expectations I put on myself are very, very high. And because of how high they are, I'm quite often disappointed or too hard on myself. Which I wouldn't say is a good thing. But they're there. I can't pretend they're not there. And I don't really compare myself to other people, because that's not something I do, because I know the deep work I don't care about Bill or Bob or whoever, because the bottom line is I know I got my own internal issues. I got my own challenges. I can't focus on those people because I'm not perfect, right?
Yeah.
But also with that said, and once again, me and Dave on our long journey was talking about it. It's actually maybe I'm not that much of a bad person. Maybe I am a bit too harsh on myself.
Yeah.
What would you say to that? Or
Right now I understand. What you said is what we all go through.
I don't.
No, what you said is what we all go through, and I think we have. There's a lovely. I remember having a conversation with someone about the fact that how we judge people. So you, for example, if I were to judge you, just so you know, like you're another person, I can only go by what you do. I don't know what's in your mind. If I were to judge myself, I know what I was thinking behind what I was going to be doing. Okay. So it's a different context. And I think that's why sometimes we judge ourselves, I wanted to do this, but I didn't do it. Disappointment. One of my coaches, I was on a course with her last month about courageous leadership and things like that. And one of the aspects that she gave, one of the tasks and exercise she gave us was for 1 month, do not say anything negative about yourself. I was like, what? And
externally or internally?
Internally. No, it doesn't matter. Both. But it's interesting you saying that about is external
because can you stop it?
My internal narrative was negative towards myself. I didn't do that. Oh my goodness,
that's deep.
You didn't, these are things you wanted to plan to do before lockdown, but you didn't do them. Okay, these are things you said you were going to try and do during lockdown, but you didn't do it. You shouldn't have been thrown off course by the fact that you should be mentally stronger. Or it was on and on and on, and I didn't know that and realize that until Diana Osagi actually gave that challenge, and I just thought, oh my goodness, it was like a light bulb moment, because externally everything I do is about optimism, positivity. But that was for other people.
There you go.
It wasn't necessarily about what was going on within myself.
Wow.
So that was a timely and enlightening exercise, because I think that, we've got expectations. I always have high expectations. My mind is always active about, want to do this, want to do that, want to do this, want to do that.
Yeah.
And I've had to try and be easier on myself because of different circumstances and things like that, but also because of the fact that it then means I'm less negative on myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you take positive feedback well?
I've learned to. And you can see by my reaction, I've learned to. Hence why when people say, oh, but you did, and I'm like, okay, it's what I do.
Why do we always focus on the negative over the positive? Because before the cameras were on, obviously I talked a little bit about Twitter, and sometimes there's this huge, a lot of negativity on there where I look on it, I don't even want to be a part of it,
Yeah.
But there's two sides. There's the lovely side, which is you, even Hannah Wilson, Andy Buck.
Yes.
And then there's another side where I'm I don't even know if I want to get, I don't know. Does that make sense? But why do we focus on the negative somewhat more than the positive? Why do we...
You can hack away at it, can't you? Until the cows come home. But I think part of it is negativity is not necessarily a bad thing. For example, no one could be 100% positive. For example, someone may have done something and there are things that they need to change or action, and you have to point it out. Yeah. That is not... I don't see that as a bad thing, because it is I'm not doing it with malice or to put them down. I want you to do, I know what you can do. I want you to do an even better job. I know you can do an even better job. That's if I were to give criticisms or, constructive criticisms, that's the aim behind it. But I can't speak for the mind of other people who don't do things in that regard. Sometimes I just think that people love. Someone said? Was it Action Jackson said? Misery loves company, and I think that is there something negative going on? People just love to pick it and hack at it.
Yeah, it does,
because it detracts maybe away from themselves. Who knows? That's just.
And I guess it's our perception again, going deep, of what we perceive as negative. Mm-hmm. Just because that person said something which we think is negative. Doesn't mean to say that it's negative. Because when they say it, does it make them feel negative? Probably not. It makes them feel good. So it's me who is perceiving it a certain way, and it's me who's getting triggered because of it. Right?
True. And also what you see in writing as well. I think this is one of the downsides about, say, social media. When you read something, the intonation and the meaning and the body language is lacking. So you can only go by the words. So if you trigger something in your mind thinking which was not intended, that's I think one of the downsides about it. But
that's why I interviewed Ollie Cav today, always putting things in illustrations. That's why It's quite strong, to be fair, and you have to think the way we perceive certain things, and even if you're talking to someone or in your family, you're texting them, and they could say something completely in a different tone to the way you interpret it.
Absolutely.
And you go off, and I think it's important, and sometimes I think we overcomplicate things, and our brain goes into...
It's where you are at that moment in time. It's where you are. So, for example, lockdown was really interesting because it enabled me to mentally declutter things I thought I'd sorted out. So when lockdown started in March, I did freak out, actually. I was not in a great place, and I thought I would be. And that was, I think, the loss of control, the uncertainty, what the heck is going on? What do you mean we can't go down to Sainsbury's to get what we usually get? All of those things triggered things in me that I didn't even know were things that I had to deal with. So I think sometimes it's just a reflection on where you are, you know? And that's what,
Sounds like Moana, that does.
Sorry?
Yeah, sounds like Moana. You ever watched Moana? Oh, my word.
No.
Do you know Moana?
But I don't know what that is.
Disney. Moana. Moana.
No.
Make way.
No.
Oh, my word.
No. Sorry. I don't know.
Dave.
No. I'd have to look it up.
Oh,
okay.
guys, what is going on? No. You don't know Moana?
What's Moana? What is that?
Oh, it's Disney.
What is that? Who? What? What is it? An animal?
Do you know any Disney?
Oh, with the long hair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I've not watched it.
You do.
No. I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, guys,
and
that's
he's
the end
got
of this.
The Rock. Yeah. No,
You're welcome.
No. I saw him do that song to his one of his kids.
Oh, you're too much on Instagram and not in real life. Disney
No,
is real
I don't
life.
watch. No. The only thing I watched on Disney Plus recently was Hamilton.
I just,
Okay, there you go.
I can't like you anymore. What? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, that's the end of the interview.
I just cut things out.
I know. Where do I go from here? All jokes aside, what is the dream? What's next? What is the dream for you?
Oh goodness! See, I don't know. All I say is, I just want to go as far as I possibly can and just take up the opportunities.
Oh, you have to watch Moana. You have to. She sings about it.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. No, I never have. Like, for example, do you want to be like a head teacher? Do you want to be this and that?
Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. Through working where I am, for the first time, I can realistically say I can see myself as a head teacher. Possibly of a special school, though. I think alternative provision.
That's amazing.
I genuinely believe that every student deserves to get the best opportunity and education they possibly can. I genuinely believe that. That's why I teach. That is why I teach. I don't think that within mainstream school settings, it's always a possibility. And it's not to bash mainstream schools. As I said, I gave my example before, like you teach it up to 30 kids and things like that. Sometimes the mainstream setting isn't the best place for students to thrive and be, successful. So that's why I just think that... Is
that on mainstream or is that on a specific school?
No, mainstream, generally, collectively. Because you could have like academies, you can, there may be variances, but when you look across the piece, there are similarities. So that's why I really think that within regards to, say, like alternative provision, there has to be something as equally good as you'd actually find in terms of teaching and learning. It has to be, so that the students can get the qualifications that they deserve and they can actually demonstrate their potential. I strongly believe in that. So if I were to be a head teacher in that particular setup, not to say it's going to be easy, I would, for the sake of the students who you are trying to make a genuine difference to.
Even if your ed tech, your consultancy, your coaching, everything, even if that had to take a back seat?
If it had to take a back seat, then yeah. If it had to. But then there are such things now as, say, like being a co-head teacher where you have a job share. Again, it's rare, it's unique, but me being a senior leader in a school on a part-time basis, when is rare. I believe that the opportunities, can arise if that's what I truly believe I want to be doing.
And do you think it's going to go that way a bit more now, especially with given the opportunity of COVID and how things have worked and how things operated? I know we spoke quite a bit about it at the Andy Buck conference, right? This idea of flexible working.
Absolutely.
Why is that important? Is it important?
It is. Could you give choice? You give choice, and you again, it's valuing people. I remember having a conversation with someone just before Christmas. I think it was November 2019, where she was talking about her school context and the number of people who were working part-time, but not just like main, scale teachers, people with responsibilities. And I was like, what? And she said, because the head teacher valued what these people were able to do and wanted to make it work. Now that, to me, is, like the highest, I suppose, the ideal of flexibility. And the fact that if you really value what a person brings to your organization and, but they need to work more flexibly, blimey, this is the 21st century, for God's sake. You've got EdTech. We can find a way to make it work if it's really what we want.
What is EdTech?
EdTech basically is a shorthand for educational technology. So it could be hardware, like devices, like laptops, iPads and things like that. Maybe websites, apps, software that can help enhance the teaching and learning. Okay. And that's it in a nutshell. So, for example, if I were to use, say, like PowerPoint in my lessons to help students engage with the science learning, that's me using EdTech. Okay. If I got students to actually, if they had difficulty in, writing things down, or they weren't sure about how to show that they'd done a particular practical, they could use their iPad to talk through and just demonstrate the sequence of things that they actually did in a practical. That is using EdTech.
What about when technology is not accessible? People do not have access. In schools, when lockdown happened, in certain households.
Yeah, really good question.
What can we do?
That's why the government scheme to provide that accessibility, so through the local authorities finding out, and obviously they had a criteria, I think students in year 10, students who had EHCPs, and I think there's another criteria as well, which I've forgotten off the top of my head. The local authorities could actually provide devices for them, and also looking at the 4G access as well. So I commend the government for actually investing in that and putting things in place. But obviously that was the criteria, so it was great. But then you may have some who don't fit into that particular criteria who still miss out.
It's hard,
it is, hard. But there are schemes like, for example, again through lockdown, where you had, and I've forgotten the details, but there was one organisation who were calling on other companies to donate devices and things like that families could actually use.
But it's also so hard. I mean, I don't know much about the government and stuff, but it's so easy to finger point, isn't it? It's like, who has all the answers? It's just, I guess it's such a, can you please everybody?
No.
Well, that's not very positive, is it?
But that's the reality. No, you can't please everyone, but what you can do right by the majority. You can try and do right by most. That. Yeah.
Okay. So I ask every guest this.
Oh, okay.
This is the time you should feel nervous.
Oh, right, okay.
No, I'm joking. But if you could sit down with any three people.
Ooh.
Apart from Cameron Parker, because you've achieved that today,
Oh, wow.
Any three people, dead or alive,
who
would it be?
Three. Oh, goodness.
And I don't want to include family members.
Okay, I can't. Okay. Whew. Right, so the one person I would love to meet is Gary V.
Gary, what?
Yeah.
Did you see that coming?
What happened?
You know about Gary V, but you don't know about Moana. What is going on? Gary V, the YouTuber, the entrepreneur. Really?
Yeah. He is on point. Bar the swearing.
Yeah,
but that's bar the swearing. I love what he has to say. It's just brilliant. I would love to sit down with him. Honestly, I know people.
Well, you basically can, because he posts every sit down online.
No, I would like to meet him face to face. That's what I'm saying. If I could sit down with something, he would be one person I'd definitely love to meet, because it's just, he's
Do you think you'd be disappointed though?
No. And you know why? It's because of the fact that I would just ask questions about him and how did he get to be how he was, and
I'm more interested about his family situation.
Oh, okay.
How do you balance it? Is there any confrontation between you and your wife? Is there any, because it's great grinding and working hard, but there has to be a give and take, right?
Good point. Yeah, I never even thought of that. I'm just interested because he gives so much. What I love about him is the fact that he gives a lot of advice. He does it.
See, this is like, no, mind you, I got his books. I like him, but this is the thing, right? It's easy to give a lot when you charge $100,000 to talk at a conference.
Okay.
True?
I did not know that.
True?
I did not know that.
It's stupid amounts, right?
Can I just say, I'm sure he's.
I feel like I'm bashing him. I don't want to bash. I don't want to bash him.
Can I just say, I'm sure he's not the only one that charges that much.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, I'm not. I'm sure but he does give a lot of. I love. As I said, it's about vibe. He's authentic. I'm not saying he's perfect because the swearing is like, but it's who he is. But in terms of I just love to meet him.
But I also think that's credit to you, right? You said about the swearing. You're willing to not ignore it, but still listen and like someone, even if you don't always agree with something.
Yes.
How many people do people dismiss somebody just because they did one thing wrong, or said one thing they disagreed with, or they said something you wouldn't say yourself? Once again, me and Dave was talking about, but it's
really
true, right?
valid point.
No, but I think that's so I think that says so much about your character. But you're like, okay, I don't like this element of it, but yeah, he's cool, man. I'd love to meet him. Whatever. That says a lot about you.
Okay.
Where people will be like, no, I'm against him. He swears. He talks this way about somebody or something. But you actually you see the positives in the situation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's human. He's gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we hold people in such high regard that when they make a mistake or whatever, we get them for it.
That's true.
You think about like Kevin Hart.
Let's not even talk about. This has still been recorded. This is where I don't want to say anything because I don't want to say. No, I'm not gonna say anything.
You gotta say something.
No, because this is gonna be publicized and stuff like that. No, on a serious note, I wouldn't. I haven't agreed with the way in which certain things have been dealt with. Let's just put it that way.
All right, I'll take that. Second person.
Oh, let me think. Oh my goodness. This is a tough question. This umming and ahhing is going to be edited out, I'm presuming.
No, it's all natural.
Oh no!
That's the best interview.
Oh no!
This is take 45.
I'm trying to think.
I'm just trying to think of your agent, Dave.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be. This is one. If I could any moment in time, anybody, any person, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Go on.
I would be interested because obviously in terms of Islam and things like that, he is a very important figure. I would just be interested just to see him in action. Because you hear a lot of very positive descriptions and things like that. It'd be interesting to see.
I'll be wrong not to ask.
Okay.
Is there a chance you could be disappointed?
I think we could be disappointed with everyone, but I say no. I think it depends on what you expect. Again, it's about expectations, isn't it?
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, but I think it depends on what you expect. But I think part of it is just to, like sometimes it's just nice just to be. You don't have to have a conversation, just to soak in the person's essence and aura and just to be.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's another whole conversation as well.
Yeah. And so, oh goodness.
Number 3.
The third person. Brené Brown.
Who's that?
So she talks about vulnerability. There are so many people.
Education?
No, just from a general context. So she's written a number of different books. I was given someone, this was about maybe 3-4 years ago, mentioned one of her books, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but one of the things that I love about her is about you can still be, and I took this on board, you can still be strong but vulnerable. Don't let your shame or your sense of shame hold you back. Still be authentic and things like that. So some of her key messages resonated with me when I first read one of her books a number of years ago. And I think that made me more comfortable. Again, I think it coincided with being part of Women Air, being 10% braver, stepping out your comfort zone, and talking about things that weren't going well from a professional context, and putting it out there to be authentic, but not to be held back by the sense of shame. Because I think that with one of the particular roles when I decided to walk away from it or leave, I felt shame in doing so. But then when you read what Brené has to say, you can put it into a different context.
It's shame closely linked, whether it exists or not, with victim mentality. Let me explain, right? Ooh. So I was reading, what's his name? The guy from SAS, Ant Middleton's book. And he was quite to the point, and he talked a lot about this idea of being a victim mentality, right? people have the same problems and it kind of becomes a part of their identity, and they actually don't really want to fix it, because if they did, then they would have nothing to moan about. Is shame linked to it? Mind you, I'm just going off
I'm not sure. I understand.
For the record, this is not my opinion. Okay. It's just literally what I'm
I think I understand the context.
Does that exist?
Victim, I don't know. Does it exist? I don't know.
That's
a deep question.
I don't like saying it. I don't feel comfortable saying it.
I'm not sure if you can call it victim, because it's like it's a label that people put. You know?
That's what
and I
mean.
think particularly if you're not in that particular context, it's almost easy to look down on other people. Maybe whether it's on judge other people. I think what I would say is the fact that if you're encountering different difficult situations, particularly if it's internal, unless you can actually get support and help to help you move past it, you do go in a loop. Because it's like fixed, because you've got certain patterns of thinking, or certain ways in which you deal with things, or certain ways in which you experience life, and it may feel repetitious, that may reinforce, what you've experienced and how you have maybe come to view, life and things like that. So I'm not sure. I don't know. So victimhood, these are not terms that I necessarily use.
I don't feel comfortable saying it.
I don't know because, and again, it's like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable either using it. But I think that, because I've experienced it, and we all do, and the fact that sometimes...
But then that could be closely linked to your own mental health. That could be the way you see things.
It could be, or linked to trauma. Yeah, it could be linked to trauma.
So to label it, I think...
I'm not sure.
I think we're break. This is good.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable labeling people in that particular way, because what I was thinking is, okay, so what has happened for them to experience that? What do they need to do? How can we support them? What support? All those. I'm more about going beneath the skin and thinking about what can we do to move forward. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let me ask you, right? You know a little bit about the work I do now and stuff like that. What advice would you give me to move forward and to make progress and continue doing what I'm doing? What advice would you do? I'm 28 now. I think you have a rough idea what I want to do. Eventually I want to write some books, but ultimately the bottom line is the group I truly care about is teenagers. That's where my love, that's where my passion is. And the results we've had has been incredible. No, but it is something I'm very passionate about, and it's something I'm always trying to learn and grow, because I can get up and talk, but we're trying to measure everything we do. We're trying to get some solid evidence and statistics and feedback and research behind it as well. But how can I get to the next level? How can I improve? What would I need to do? Even if it's not just personal to me, but say someone who's 28, developed a business. I got a couple other coaches who goes out into different schools now. Yeah. Because when I first started, it was about the assembly, and it was probably the ego saying, going out, talking your story and walking away. But eventually that I did ask myself, where is the value? It wasn't. It wasn't serving me anymore, because I could drive 6 hours somewhere, do an hour in front of 300 people, buzzing. But then you get back in your car with your sliders on, and you're back to reality. And it was those times when I felt crap. It was those times when I felt I didn't feel good, right? So I was searching for something else, and I think it was at a school actually in Boston. Do you know where Boston? Not in America.
Oh no,
up in Lincoln.
Okay.
Right? And I was shocked, because I said to this young girl, I said, at this point, I guess a bit lack of experience. What's your dream? What do you want to do? What do you believe in? What? And she's like, I don't know what I want. She literally, that's how she responded. And I can see in her eyes, she literally didn't know what was next. She didn't have any faith, she didn't have any hope. And it was upsetting her. And that was the point when I thought, Cameron, your job actually really, really means something. And I know it does, but it was at a point when I was doing assemblies every day, the messages were coming through, the positive messages, and to the point when, if I'm being honest, I wasn't really paying much attention. Yes, I'd respond, but I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. And it was kind of that impact I was missing. I don't know why I'm going on that kind of route, but I've reached a point where that was the biggest transition for me so far in my career. Is actually, what am I really doing? Why am I doing it? And I want to continue to put out that interview amazing people like yourself.
Oh, thank you.
And stuff, but it's important to me. And I think the guest we had earlier said, why'd you do it? And it's just, for me, it's an opportunity to sit down and actually ask them and talk to some amazing people and learn.
Okay.
As well as give value and give it to other people too. But what advice would you give me?
So, okay, several. So one I would say is, what are your values? What's your own personal vision? What's your aim, I suppose? And maybe looking at it from, I always say, maybe there's a scientific aspect to me, short, medium and long-term goals. So, in a year's time, what would you like to achieve, particularly with the students, etc. But I'd also think about looking at the online aspects. So, for example, we don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to be continuing on for, but I think it's great if you could look at, again, with the assemblies and things like that, but like looking at continuing the assemblies on an online basis, but also those students who would be, I would call, the harder to reach ones. Because,
that's been the tricky situation.
Yeah, so, the harder to reach students, how could you make a difference with them? There was something else that I had an idea about, and it's gone right out my mind, and to try and see if I can actually get that.
Sorry, I talked you out of it, look.
No, I'm trying to think. There's something else I was going to suggest. One or two
so
things.
We've done
I can't remember.
The online element.
So online, hard to reach. Oh, right. Looking at how you can actually support the academic aspects as well. So say, for example, if you've got, some schools, they actually have mentors, but academic mentors. And it doesn't mean to say you have to be brilliant at, a particular subject, but you could help students, you could help support students keep on track with maybe homework, maybe revision, maybe actually showing them particular developing skills, study skills, etc., etc., etc. That I think might be possibly. But if you're thinking of writing a book, I say get to it. Start.
Have you written a book?
Have I written a book? I should be
prepared to know that you have. If you have, yeah, I've written 5 books. How do you not know this?
So I was offered an opportunity to write a book, which I'm still writing. I'm about halfway through. And the reason I'm like shame is the fact that it's been a while since I've been working on it. And Hannah, who's my editor, is very patient. That's all I can say. So I'm in the middle of writing a book, but you're
gonna get it published?
Yeah. So I have got a publisher. And it's looking about how to be an effective. Well, let me get it out.
It should encourage you enough.
It should. No, but writing a book is hard work. That's the reality of it. But I've actually written chapters in other books. So the Early Careers Framework that was collated by the Chartered College of Teachers. I've written a chapter there about wellbeing, and I've also written a chapter for the Women Ed book that's going to be published later on this year as well.
Amazing.
So yeah, so with regards to you, while you're thinking about, like your next steps and things like that, get your book started, start collating, just start getting that together and thinking about, so what will be the focus of it and why do you want to write a book?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
To the camera, where can people find you?
All right. Okay. So you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Rondell 1010_B. I'm Bukky Yusuf on LinkedIn, and I have a website. I do have a website, actually. Yes, a blog site, but it's Teach Lead Coach. So it's a WordPress one. So if you just look that up on Google, you can find me. And also Instagram as well. If you like unicorns, if you're interested in unicorns,
you don't even follow me on Instagram. What's going on?
I didn't know you were on Instagram. If you're interested in unicorns, you can find me on on Instagram as well as @Rondell 10_B for Bravo.
And if you want to watch Moana, Disney Plus. But anyway, all jokes aside, honestly, thank you so much for your time. It is greatly appreciated. I told you it'd be a natural conversation, Yeah. But honestly, thank you so much. And I feel like there's going to be many times now throughout the next couple of years where we connect and we see each other.
Yeah, look forward to it. Yeah. Definitely look forward to it, Cam.
Thank you for your time for sure. There you have it, guys. Another episode of the Dreams to Reality podcast. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff there. And yeah, I'll put all the links to your social media and your website in the description below. And until next time, you can either have results or you can have excuses. But guess what?
You can't have both.
You cannot have both. Thank you again, guys.